Hello, Grace. Welcome back to our reading plan. Today is July 2nd, and we're looking at the Proverbs again, chapter 25 through 29. And you might be wondering, why are we back in the Proverbs? Well, it's because of what we read yesterday. Hezekiah is reviving the people. They are alive again to the realities of God and what corresponds with emotional experiences and great, wonderful reception of the love of God is living wisely, is living the way that God intends us to live. So while these Proverbs were not written during Hezekiah's time, they were written before, they were a part of the revival of Judah when Hezekiah became king of Judah. And so that's why they are in this section. Not because they're written here, not because it's actually the chronological order of writings, but because of what happened in Judah's history through Hezekiah and his desire to live wisely as the people of God. And remember, Proverbs are not a step-by-step program for how to prosper in this world. They are generalities of how God intends us to live. And so we may not always experience prosperity. We may not always get the outcome that we want on this world, but we will experience the goodness and the grace and the prosperous relationship with God as we follow the examples that we see here. And that's what we want to do. We want to live wisely as we turn to God more fully. And so I want to highlight a few Proverbs today, starting in the first chapter, 25, and verse 21 and 22. And you might recognize this if you read the New Testament. Paul quotes it. It says this: "If your enemies are hungry, give them food to eat. If they are thirsty, give them water to drink. You will heap burning coals of shame on their heads, and the Lord will reward you." That's also quoted again, Romans chapter 12, verse 20. And this tells us that what Paul says is that we are not to take vengeance on ourselves. God will repay. God will repay everything that needs to be done. What we are to do is to live rightly and to love like Jesus loved, and that will expose people to their wickedness, whether it's wickedness to repentance or wickedness to condemnation as they are refusing to follow God. But this is what we are to do, to live an example of Jesus, to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. Now, the next thing I want to highlight is one of those verses. There's two verses here that people tend to quote like, "Oh, this is obviously not. This means that the Bible isn't inerrant. There's a contradiction right here." And this says this: "Don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you will become as foolish as they are. Be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools, or they will become wise in their own estimation." What? Isn't that saying the exact opposite thing? That's what people will say. And they'll come to me and say, "This is a contradiction. What does this mean?" Well, this actually isn't a contradiction. It demonstrates a few things, and this is what it demonstrates. One is that we are not to answer insult with insult, right? Fools will make a big case. They will do a bunch of craziness and a bunch of drama, and we are not to come down into the drama, into the craziness, into the insults, and therefore become a fool like them. We are to make sure that we expose their foolishness, right? To heap coals on their heads so that they may be exposed, that they may see their wickedness, may see their foolishness for what it is, so they are not wise. So it's saying we can't answer them in the way that they would answer, that they're answering us. But we also can't not answer them because they're going to think that they're wise in their own eyes. We've got to answer them in such a way that exposes their foolishness so that we are not dragged down with them or allowing them to think a certain way. So that's what this is saying, is that we have to be careful with the way we are speaking. We know that the Proverbs talks about this before. If you remember, the Proverbs often talk about how we say things and the way we respond. And it says this earlier in this chapter, it'll say it later, is that the way we talk is important, right? In verse 7 of chapter 26, "A proverb in the mouth of a fool is as useless as a paralyzed leg." What does that mean? If you're living foolishly, if you're living hypocritically, you're living contrary to God's law, and then you quote a proverb or quote to someone, "Hey, here's how you can be wise," and they see you're a fool, what you're doing is you're giving them nothing, right? So we need to be careful with the way that we're living, the way we're speaking, so that when we do say something that's important, that people can receive it. The next proverb I want to share with us is one we all know. It is Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. In verse 19, as a face is reflected in water, so the heart reflects the whole person. And so this has to do with our character. Are we wanting to become more like God? Are we wanting to be wise? If that's the case, then we need to be around people who are going to challenge us and sharpen us so that we can go towards Christ, can go towards God and desire Him more fully. If we don't want that, then we're not going to go in iron sharpen iron relationships. And our heart is going to be exposed for being selfish and prideful. But if our heart really wants God, it reflects in the way that we interact with people. It reflects in the conversations we have. It reflects in the relationships we have. Are we getting around people who want to become more like Jesus? They will sharpen us so that our hearts will be hearts that can receive the love of God. And so those are the few things I wanted to bring out to your attention today. I hope you enjoy the reading. There's a lot in here. Take notes. And as I said before, when you're reading Proverbs, often similar concepts come up and interweave throughout, and they help clarify some things as we go. So if you took notes before, take notes now and compare them. Enjoy the reading, and we'll see you again tomorrow. God bless you.